Mitch from sportschatplace.com and pickdogs.com. It is Thursday, April 30th, 2020, here with your live show. Don't have all my equipment yet in the studio, but definitely going to the way that we do things, we kind of just jump off the cliff. I just had this discussion before we went off air. Rod said, you got to check if there's water when you jump off the cliff. I got to tell you, I rarely ever check. We usually just jump. I've been in this internet and tech space for a long time, and, nothing is ever perfect, that's for sure. I certainly don't have the ideal studio setup that I'm looking for yet. I don't even have all the equipment of the studio setup that I'm supposed to have right now, but it's a lot better than what we used to have, and we do the same thing with the websites all the time, whether they're ready to go or not. We just go, and we've done okay with it so far. So we're going to continue to stick with that strategy and continue to go. So today we have sports betting news going on, and let's start with that. We'll have Steve Monahan on there with me doing the sports betting news, and then we'll have Rod and Chris, the Puck Dogs, join us for some bankroll management as well. So like we said, still waiting for sports to happen, but it's not happening. And I really had hoped that we would have some more news by now as to what was going on in the world of sports. I'm just not seeing it, though. But, hopefully sooner rather than later. But let's bring in Steve Monahan from Sports with Mono and Mono. And say good morning, Steve. How are you?
Morning, Mitch. How are you? Hello, everybody.
Just hanging in there here in Hawaii. We've eased up we've gone to phase one, starting at 4 p.m. today in Oahu. They'll be starting to open up the parks, the city-run parks. Golf courses will be open, and starting to see what happens when we start mixing again. We're not going to we're not going to ignore the masks and the social distancing and any of those things, but we're going to kind of get back, try and at least phase one, and it's like, for me, I'm happy to be able to get back on the golf course, but at the same time, it's, without sports, I'm still lost. So I'm still waiting for sports like everybody else, but in the meantime, there is stuff going on in the sports world. And the first things first, as Fat Bastard said in Austin Powers. We're not gonna. Where's the? But we're gonna. So, but what we're gonna do is basically, so Andy Dalton has been released. Where does he land? There's still, Jameis Winston signed with the Saints. So now there's really just two quarterbacks, of the big names that are out there. There's some other guys out there too. But so Andy Dalton now joins that list. Any places where you think that he might land?
I think a viable landing spot is New England. And some people look at me like I got two heads, but I think Andy Dalton could be a one-year guy for the Patriots until they figure out who their quarterback's going to be. I think that's a possibility.
So do you think do you think that his best days are obviously behind him? And there's certainly, we've seen his best days already, come and go. But, he had A.J. Green. He's not going to have anything remotely close in New England. What makes you think that he's a viable option there,
I'm not buying Jarrett Stidham is going to be the quarterback this year. I'm not. Bobby Hoyer's there. Brian Hoyer, I think, is there. They've signed a couple free agents like Brian Lewerke out of Michigan State to bring them in. Kids that are coming out of college. I think New England has to make a long time play. I don't think he retires. I don't, Mr. Rod. I don't. I just think, for a 1 year stop till New England figure out who they want to go after. Also, New England, I think, has a ton of picks next year. If I remember correctly, I think they got 8 in the bank. So I think they can make a play for Trevor Lawrence next year too. At least be in the mix. And if that's going to be the quarterback of the future, but Andy Dalton, I don't think retires. I think he could land in New England. That's just one spot.
Yeah, so I just think that I just think you know I don't think that he does. I don't think he brings anything to the table that they don't already have, and it's like I really don't see anyone in the league willing to trade to the Patriots up high enough to take Trevor Lawrence. And we also know that what happens in every year of college football. There's always at least a quarterback, if not 2 or 3 quarterbacks, that that just uh, that just kind of come out of nowhere, in college football. Not necessarily out of nowhere, but maybe college football is a growing game. So, Georgia's going to have a guy. We know that, right? Jacob Fromm, they're going to have a new guy, and Washington's going to have a new guy, and, there's going to be some good guys out there, right? And there's going to be plenty of them. So, even though we're all talking, we're all talking Trevor Lawrence right now as the guy, and rightfully so. Last year at this time we were talking Tua as the guy. At least most people were. I wasn't. But most people were talking about him as the guy, and Joe Burrow ended up being the guy. Head and shoulders above, head and shoulders above. Untradeable. That they were offered trade for him and didn't take it. But I don't know. I just think that to me Dalton is kind of like he's no different than Hoyer. It's kind of like he's no different.
I get it, but he's been an NFL starter for 9, probably close to 10 years now. That's all.
And he won a playoff. And he won a playoff game in 0 of them. It's like I don't know. He made it to the playoffs. He had killer defenses. He should have a decent defense in New England to work with. He'll be on the short field. Probably not a lot expected of him. They got a bunch of tight ends, so they're looking at the short passing game all the way. We'll see.
And again, I'm not talking like Andy Dalton here, who was Kenny Anderson from the Bengals or anything like that, But you asked me where he might land. I think he might land there. A lot of teams already have their backup quarterbacks already in place. Like you just talked about, Winston going to the Saints.
To me, the Saints had their guy. The Saints just gave Taysom Hill, $20-something million. It's like, how is he not the backup? It's like you give a guy $20 million to be your backup quarterback. He kind of is your backup. So it's like just because the backup is set, and even just because the starter is set, Aaron Rodgers they just traded up to take some guy when Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, and it's like the Packers. If Aaron Rodgers would have went down this season, or like say he gets mad at the coach, which he does, right? He decides I want to play or something. It's like then you're getting Trevor Lawrence. That's how close the Packers were because we saw their tackling in San Francisco. So I don't know. I think New England's a logical spot, but sometimes the logical spot isn't the spot, and maybe that's the reason why they didn't go for Winston, and maybe that's the reason why they didn't go for Cam Newton, and maybe that's the reason is that they were waiting. They knew he was going to be there, but to me, it's like. I just don't understand why you don't take a quarterback who obviously, can't get you over the hill. And, so I don't know. That's just me. But anyways.
I think New England is post Brady. I don't think New England thinks they're going to the Super Bowl this year. Again, they've lost a lot of pieces from Van Noy on defense and everything.
But he's generic. Van Noy is.
They did draft. They had they took 2 tight ends in the first 4 rounds. And we talked about it. I think the Bills this year are going to win that division, and I think New England will be lucky to even make a wild card this year.
I don't know. I think that to me, Van Noy is just a generic player, and it's like he's nothing special. So losing him is really like he's kind of just an interchangeable piece. He's not. It's not like when they lost Collins or something. It's like
Right. Well, I mean, New England has always been interchangeable with their pieces.
But I think if you're the Patriots, and you have Bill Belichick as your head coach, you always have. I think in the Super Bowl. But
couple guys in the NFL made some news. One got busted. Kansas City's cornerback Breland got busted a couple days ago, and now Telvin Smith of the Jacksonville Jaguars was just arrested for having sex with minors. So, they're keeping the NFL in the news.
Well, welcome to the NFL. I mean, that's it is what it is. But
it is what it is. Yep.
But anyways, hopefully we have NFL football in the near future. But in the meantime, it's just sim games, and we'll see you back at the end of the program for the NFL sim game segment. Thank you, Steve. That was Steve Monahan from Sports with Mono and Mono. Next up, got the puck dog, Chris Ruffalo. Chris, good morning to you. How's it going out there in Toronto, Mississauga, Ontario?
Yeah, it's going all right. I hear things are going pretty well in Hawaii for you, so at least we're making progress.
And I'm not going to say that Hawaii did everything perfect and everything right, but I will say one thing. We were the first ones to say, screw it, man, we're not going outside of our houses. And it's like they let tourists in, up until, probably later than what most people here would have wanted. But even when they were letting the tourists in, nobody else would go out. And as soon as the heat came, because one thing we know about our governor is that generally caves, right? So it's once the heat came on, he said, yeah, all right, we'll have visitors, to make those people happy. The tourism industry, which you have to keep happy here because they are while I don't depend on it, certainly a lot of people here do. He said. Okay, we can have tourists, but they have to have a 14-day quarantine. So, it's like, so you can come to Hawaii, but you got to stay in your hotel room for 14 days. Nothing fun about that. And if you break the quarantine, they were talking about putting ankle bracelets on people. But anyways, we got Chris. Topic that we're talking with you and with Rod and myself is going to be bankroll management. So. What exactly, when you hear bankroll management, and I get asked this question all the time, about bankroll management and about, money management and things like that. And, people say, how much do I bet on a game? I think that's the number one question that I get. So how much do you bet on a game?
I mean, it all depends on what bank we're starting with.
That's exactly it, It's like, I don't know your financial situation. That's what I always say. It's like, for me, it's like, if it's Miami Notre Dame, it's, everyone that saw my bet, it was, 17,000 something. If it's, Jackson State versus, Prairie View A&M on a Monday night in college basketball, it's probably whatever the, $8, if even that.
We've said it before in the past, and up here it's kind of we had a bit of a different start to sports betting where all you could really bet were parlays, and it wasn't very profitable for my bankroll as time went on. So I would definitely say to start, betting single bets is the way to go for that, and then managing how much you bet on those games is, I'd say, probably anywhere from 1% to 5% of your bankroll per bet. But I think the main thing is to keep it consistent. Don't just fly off the handle every now and then. If you keep it consistent, it'll help you get through the rough patches when you have your losing streaks like we all do, and it'll also help you build up your bankroll, I think, more consistently as time goes on.
So, when do you go big? Are there other times where you just bet big? We're just like, screw it, man, this is the one. I have games like that, and I rarely will say it, but, people know that I do have games like that, where I just say, this is the one, We don't get chances like this often, We just don't, these games happen, we see them on the board, and it's just like, oh my God, it's normally against an ESPN team,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think stuff like that comes with time. We said yesterday, you get comfortable with teams, you get comfortable with certain scenarios, and I mean, it's all about sort of biding your time. Like, I mean, one of my favorite stories or moments from this college football season was when we heard someone bet $1,000 on Toledo as a 28-point favorite, getting $25 back if they win the bet, and they ended up losing outright.
Right, they bet them on the money line. They bet Toledo on the
on
the money line. They bet $1,000. They would have won $25.
And it's just like, for me, that's the exact opposite of bankroll management. That's watching it all go up in flames. I mean, I think you got to factor value into it as well as some point. But if there's a game you feel strongly about, hammer 2 or 3 or 4 times, whatever your standard unit size would be.
Yeah, I got a question or a comment here from Charlie M. I like the new background, and I got a lot of comments on the background yesterday. It's definitely a work in progress, and it's like this is all just stuff that I had lying around, and because of the lens that I use, the Sigma f1.4, it kind of brings me into focus, but does not really focus in on the background. But over time, I think you guys will be able to figure a lot of the stuff out that's back there, and it will be changing. But a few people actually asked me if it was a green screen, which it's not, because on the show I showed you guys all the stuff that was going to go in the background. I kind of held it up with my Baltimore Colts and Oakland Raiders and all that stuff. I kind of held it up on the show, and you guys have seen my Grateful Dead, bear head cover when I did my golf club segment and stuff like that, and of course my signed Muhammad Ali, one of my prized possessions. But anyways, got a lot of new stuff coming in the background too, and if you have something you want me to put in the background, as long as it's not religious or political, by all means, shoot me an email, mitch@sportschatplace.com or mitch@pickdogs.com. I'll give you my address and send it over. I'll throw it back there. And this is all a work in progress anyway, so it'll be changing over time. If you ever have time to bet big on a dog, I bet big on dogs all the time. I don't see it too much on this show. Definitely not a name I recognize, but that's okay. Of course, is always welcome, and of course, new viewers especially too. But yeah, I'm Mr. Dog of the Day. I mean, I've been doing the Dog of the Day video for 13 years every day. Up until a month and a half ago, and I do underdog money line parlays on this show on a daily basis as well, and basically, when I talk about betting strategy, I usually start with a dog. And that Miami Notre Dame game, Miami was a dog in that game, and we bet them on the money line. In hindsight, it's crazy. They were dogging that game against Notre Dame. So I do bet big on dogs. It doesn't really matter. Actually, when we did the progression that week, it was a week in Vegas where I did a progression of bets. We started the progression with a $150 bet on Iowa on the money line against Ohio State. They were 21-point favorites, paid 10-1. It was plus 1,000. We put 150 on it. Ended up paying $1,500 plus my 150 back, so it was $1,650. And we took that, we parlayed it into the $30-something thousand over the course of a week on the show. So, anyways, Chris, what's the biggest pitfall with bankroll management? Like, where do you fall out of? Where do you fall out of it? Like, when does bankroll management? Because I'll tell you, like, I like to go to the dog track, right? So, or the horse track, or casino, bingo parlor, whatever, right? I mean, I'm like you guys, right? If it's there, I'll buy a lottery scratch ticket if they were available. They don't have them here in Hawaii, but. So I know that, like, I have a tendency to go outside of my bankroll management too. But normally I have a set amount of money with me at that time. And, of course, I always have an ATM limit just like everybody else. Where even if you call the bank, there's only a certain amount of money that they're going to give you at the ATM. I mean, I know the number of the bank is on my speed dial. What is the biggest pitfall you have, like, with bankroll management?
I think a lot of it is like trying to reach out for the big payday, like we see with like the parlays and stuff like that, where you'll bet 3 or 4% of your bankroll, and it could give you a return of what 30 to 40%. But it's again, that's probably a parlay where you've got to nail 4 or 5 teams, and it's one team's your downfall. And I think if you try to build your bankroll up slowly, you're probably going to see it. It's going to take you a little bit longer, but it's more consistent than if you're just trying to chase the one big payout.
Yeah, for me, it's always betting the game that I didn't, that I wasn't going to bet. That tweener game. I talk about it all the time. It's the game and it's betting the Monday Night Football game that I didn't want to bet to begin with, and now all of a sudden I'm in-game betting. I got halftime bets. I've done a halftime show. I'm betting the game on the show while I'm talking to you guys. It's like all of a sudden, it's like I didn't want anything on the game, and I got, all of a sudden I got 35 units on it or something. In various different bets. At like 9 different point spreads. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for James White a few years ago, against the Falcons in that Super Bowl, I probably wouldn't be doing as much live betting as I do, but I hit so big on that game, hitting all those money lines, the halftime money line, the in-game at plus 375 that we got the Patriots at plus 475 on all those in-game bets, and it kind of just egged me on a little bit. But at the same time, I've been blitzed on in-game betting. The worst I've been blitzed at in-game betting was Arizona at Oregon college basketball day before the Super Bowl. And I believe it was that same year, that Falcons-Patriots year. Could have been that year. I believe it was that Falcons-Patriots year. I got absolutely blitzed on the Oregon-Arizona game where you would think it would be a pretty close game. Oregon was up by like 27 points or something. I started in-game betting Arizona, and they lost by like 50. It was just a bloodbath. Anyways, man, thanks, Chris. We'll see you back in just a few minutes for the Sim Picks. We're gonna bring Rod back, and of course, money management is something that we talk about all the time. So we certainly haven't, ended the subject, and I think we're gonna have about another month to be scraping for topics. So if there's any topics that anyone wants covered, just email them to me at Mitch@pickdogs.com, Mitch@sportschatplace.com. We'll do a show on it because we're definitely looking for topics. But anyways, Chris, thanks for joining us. Of course, Chris Ruffalo is one of the Puck Dogs, and he's been with us for a long time at Sports Chat Place, even though he's been in front of the camera less than a year with us, and he's gotten a lot better in front of the camera than he used to be, that's for sure. But, of course, we also have the other Puck Dog, and that is Rod Zawacki. Rod, good morning. How are you? How are things out in Western Canada, West Northern Canada, correct?
Southern Alberta here.
Southern Alberta. Sure.
Southern Alberta, so I'm closer to the American border than way up north.
So, but but where you are is like one of the really cold parts of Canada, though, right? Even though you're down, even though you're down south.
I think the only part that's not cold in the winter in Canada is if you're out in BC, and they might get a little bit of snow.
I'll tell you.
Other than that, everybody else gets a deep freeze.
I'll tell you one of the things for me, that always gets colder is my nuts. It's like, that's for sure. That's why I plan on never seeing snow again. And that was probably a little bit too much information. Yeah.
For me, it's my hands. My hands always get coldest first because working in the kitchen, I'm used to the heat. So then I get outside and it's cold. So my hands have become sensitive to the cold, really bad.
Yeah, I went through all my pennants on the show, but I have a ton of throwback ones. But in that space there, I thought a bunch more were going to fit. But they don't. So I was only able to put 4, but I will probably be changing those out and stuff. I have a bunch more throwback ones, like old ones, old helmets, teams. These I just put teams that are no longer in the city. Is what was the criteria on those, and I have a bunch more too. But anyways, yeah, I never want to see snow again. I'm on about a 6 or 7. I'm on a 6-year winning streak with not seeing any snow. Oh, so speaking of the money line bet, someone said, yeah, I also had that money line bet of the Dolphins against the Pats in that game in New England last year when the Dolphins knocked the Pats from the opening round bye and home field advantage in the playoffs, of course. But anyway, so here we got a question, and this is this is this is a good question, Rod, and we could start off with this one too. How often do you cash out? Do you reach a certain number? Do you go from Sunday to Sunday? How do you stay disciplined? And what are your thoughts? I love this question because this is something that since the even I used to cash out every single bet, when I was in Vegas because every game was on a ticket, right? And you'd go there and they'd cash out your tickets, and then they say, of course, the magic question to someone like me: any more bets? Yeah, you know me. It's like we're on a first name basis. Of course, there's going to be more bets. It's like some of the cashiers in Vegas, some of the tellers would say to me, what bets would you like next? Because it's like they wouldn't say any more bets. But how often do you cash out? Because now with online betting so predominant, and also in the United States now becoming starting to move in. It's been a very, very slow process. But with online betting coming in the United States, and then also with app betting in Vegas, which has been 3 years maybe now with app betting, I find I have this same question. How often do I cash out? And it's like for me on the app in Vegas, I fully cash out. There's two circumstances when I fully cash out. When I've hit my ATM limit at the tables, I've taken a beating at the table, and I've hit my ATM limit, then I will cash out a portion of my sportsbook money, and that's one of them. And the second one is when I leave Vegas, I generally will cash out the bulk of my money in there, and I'll usually leave like a few $100 or $1,000 on the app when I leave Vegas if I know I'm coming back, because sometimes the way my flights are scheduled, they'll land in Vegas like at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on like a Tuesday or something, and I want to get those 6:30 Eastern time, so like 3:30, or even if it's 6:30 Vegas time and I want to bet the late games, I'll be able to bet them while the plane is on the runway. Run the plane, and you have to cash on the app to do that. So I leave a couple money, but generally I cash out when I leave Vegas, when I have lost money at the table, or what the one thing I don't want to do in Vegas is I don't want to cash out and just have a wallet full of cash, because it's like, number one, we don't use cash anymore, right? So it's like, to have this big wad of cash, there's only one place you're going to drop it, and that's for me. That's at the craps table. If it's not at the slot machine, Rod, when do you cash out?
Whenever I get ahead. If there's a sizable, like even $100, $200 ahead off of what your original bankroll is, take it out. You're less likely to bet it.
But they're charging you withdrawal fees now at some of these books, right? On the online side, so
some don't charge you anything, right?
But right.
Some do.
Some do, some don't. So for me in Hawaii, they don't allow Bitcoin here, which is a really weird law, and it has something to do with the taxes and stuff like that. But so I've been cashing on the online stuff a little more often than I normally would, because I have a bank account in Las Vegas, but I'm not going to probably have it forever. So I cash out a lot more often now into the Bitcoin, because I need to get that Bitcoin into my bank account, because I'm afraid that I'm going to get into this log jam at some point where I'm not going to be able to get my money out. I guess they still will get you a check, or it just takes months. It seems like with some of these books. But I like that question because it's different for different people. I know that. Like for me, I'm less likely to cash out, and I know that's what they want. They don't want you to cash out. They figure the longer you have the money in the account, the more likely you are to spend it. But so what are your general tips here on some bankroll management? Let's do some quick hitters here.
For me, you really shouldn't vary it. Well, it's confidence in your bets that you're making. That's your biggest thing. Don't just make a bet because you're like, oh, I like this, but you have to be confident in making your bets and stick with the same size. It's huge. If you just because you're like, I understand you get a feel you really like this game, so you put a little more, put 2-3 units, but you really shouldn't go overboard. over the long term, I think you're going to lose it.
I need to write these down because I definitely lose it. I definitely go overboard, and I definitely don't bet the same amount.
You want to be consistent. It's. I know it's not easy because we get excited. We're like, we really love this game. I'm putting more than what I normally do on it, and then you lose, right? And because it does happen, you get all excited about this game and you lose, and now you've lost 8 units instead of your normal couple units.
In Vegas, in Vegas, you would not pay a percent to cash out. In Vegas, you paid your percent on the win. They take the vig out of your wins. So, like, you need to bet 110 to win 100, like standard on a sports bet. On a point spread bet. On a money line bet, they've already taken the juice out in the numbers. You know, it's like in your bet. You know, it's like on a slot machine. You know, it's like the odds of you hitting that are a lot greater than 30,000 to 1. You know, it's much greater. They've already taken it out. But so yeah, for me, and this is where you see, for everyone it's a little different. I bet more on some games and less on others. I definitely do. That's why I have different ratings and different units on different games, and that's just me. But I could see that same strategy too, because it's like this way you don't get roasted, on that game, that sure thing, that one you see a sure thing. But I've been roasted, so it's like I'm still here. It's like I've been roasted more than once, and not just on sports betting. I've been roasted in a lot of things. But so I think what most people, the question I get, like, what percentage of your bankroll are you looking to bet on a game, like, across the board? Are you using a percentage of your bankroll? Are you using a set amount? Are you using, how exactly are you deciding how much? And it's like, like Chris said, same thing. Amounts are going to vary from person to person, and all that sort of stuff. But like, how do you decide, like, if it's going to be $10 or $100 or $100 or $10,000, and how do you decide if it's good? If that's the case, and then, like, is it a percentage or is it a dollar amount? What is it?
But for me, it's always going to be a dollar amount. But if you look back at, like, a percentage, I would say 1 to 3% of your bankroll per bet. That would be your unit size. One bet, 1 to 3% of your bankroll. You start putting 10% of your bankroll on one game, you can lose your bankroll real quick.
Guilty as charged. I've definitely put more than 10% of my bankroll on a game. I put 100%. Plenty of times
and then
it happens.
Vary this, because we're like anything. We're like any sports team. We go on streaks. All of a sudden, we're on a heater. So then increase your bet a little bit because you're on a heater. Move it to like 4%, 5% on those. So then you'll make a little bit slowly. That's the thing. Make a little bit slowly. We lots of people want the big payday. They figure there's a big payday in sports betting. No, you're not going to win $1 million on making a sports bet. You could if you get lucky on a horse track at 20 cents, but I don't see many sports bets that you can make that you're going to get a return of that much money.
So we got
you maybe get 20 times your money if you get lucky.
But we got
usually not that.
I see. I all these things that Rod are saying are really solid advice, and I follow about 0 of them. It's like, I'm like the rest of you guys, and it's like I see something I like, I'm like, we're gonna kill them, man. It's like Tigers are gonna beat the Astros, man. They're gonna whoop them. Jordan Zimmerman's pitching. I'm telling you, Zimmerman's ready. Man. Zimmerman's ready. He wins one game a year. This is it. It's like, I know Verlander's pitching and he couldn't just come back to Detroit. I understand, but this is Zimmerman. He's hot. Anyways, Kevin Bowman asked, do you ever buy half points? I don't buy points ever. I don't buy half a point. I don't buy 5 points. I don't buy 6 points. I never buy half points. I never buy anything. If I need a half a point, that means I'm not betting the game. It means that it's too close to even bet. And I think that that there's usually other places for me to go. And if it comes to buying more than that or whatever, I'll just take the other team and get a full payout as opposed to having to pay odds. Because I want one particular team or the other team. Believe me, I bet against my own team. People know it all the time.
I do understand the people. I do understand why people buy that.
Oh, I do too.
Like buy the half point.
Because they're pussies. Because they're pussies. That's why.
Well, you can buy that. I see. You buy that half point. It gets you to an even number instead of a 0.5. So when you're on an even number, you have a chance of a push.
Am I allowed to say? Am I allowed to say pussies?
It increases a little bit of your odds better in your favor. A push, you still get your money back.
Right.
If it's a 0.5, you're either going to win or you're going to lose. Right? So I can see why somebody would buy a 0.5. Well, I'm even, so you can still have a chance of a push.
I'm going to bring the guys in here, and we're going to do some sim picks, but I'm not a point buyer, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to say pussy on this show or not, but I said it. Anyways, Chris.
I've heard worse.
Probably, I might have said worse. But anyways,
Yeah.
I think
It's still the go-to word.
Is it one of the? I think it's one of the 7 words. I think it is. The 7 words. All right, Chris. What do we got today on board for sim picks?
All right, for Madden, we've got at 12 Eastern. Dolphins at Jets. Jets -1, over under 50.5.
Dolphins for me.
Dolphins.
Fine, I'll put Jets just to be different. Texans
Jets
at
yesterday. They're on a back-to-back too.
Yeah, that's true.
I gotta get my car. I gotta bring my cards in here for writing and pen and stuff. I don't have any of that stuff in this video.
Texans at Vikings. Texans -3, over under 54.5.
Little
Money line.
Little love for Kirk Cousins, but I'm going to guess the Texans' pass rush is second. I'll take the Texans.
Vikings.
Vikings money line.
Wow.
Yep. Vikings at home. They play good at home. So yes, they do play good.
Oh, they do play good at home. But the Texans have, I mean, when you look at them on paper, that defensive line they had last year was sick.
Yeah. 7 Eastern. Eagles at Steelers. Eagles -3, over under 50.5.
How'd the Steelers do yesterday?
I think they whooped somebody, didn't they? I thought I seen them turn it off. It was like 40.
They played on Tuesday. And they lost to the Redskins.
Oh. Wow. Don't know if I like that pedigree too much. I guess I don't know. Who are they playing? The Steelers. I'll take the Eagles. I hate Carson Wentz. I'm gonna guess in the game though he's probably better than he is in real life.
Yeah,
I'll take the home dog. Give me the home dog.
Carson Wentz is awesome. It's like
I'll take the Steelers. I'll take the Steelers.
Wentz is awesome, man. That's why they took Jalen Hurts in the second round. He's so freaking good. Yeah, it's like they know. They watch the show. Go ahead, Chris. They know.
The over there.
You like Wentz? You a Wentz guy?
No, not at all. Last game at 10 Eastern, Cowboys at Chargers. Cowboys -4.5, over under 57.5.
I like the Chargers.
Chargers money line.
Yep, Chargers.
I like the Chargers.
Money line.
Yeah, I like the Chargers.
Ezekiel Elliott any good at this game? I've probably asked that before.
I think he's the highest rated player on the offense. I think he's 92 overall.
And Amari Cooper?
91.
Wow. Overrated in that game, too, you know?
Dak Prescott at 81.
How about Sean Lee? Does he get carted off the field in this game?
I'll check his injury rating.
Sean Lee gets, it's like I remember the old days, like they used to have the ambulance come on the field and stuff, Sean Lee, I'm sure, is the guy,
No
And-
doubt.
And do we have any other sim games going on, or is that it for today?
No hockey ones. They don't like me nailing the hockey ones. I don't think I've gotten hockey sim pick wrong yet, but I got both right yesterday. I don't see any. I see three basketball today. That's what I see.
Yeah.
You see those, Chris?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do them real quick.
All right, 5 Eastern, 76ers at Timberwolves. Sixers minus 13.5, over under 99.5. These are 6-minute quarters on Hall of Fame mode.
So what is it? Sixers versus
Timberwolves.
Take the Sixers. And what's the points?
13.5.
Oh my god. God, I don't even think I can win Timberwolves bets on sim games either. I have no idea.
All right.
All right, I'll leave it for everybody else. I'll take the Timberwolves, and so everyone else can win on the Sixers.
I'll take them too. I'll take the Timberwolves.
It's a death sentence.
Most likely, yes.
It's a death.
But they're only playing 6-minute quarters in these sim games, so there's not a lot of scoring. I watched somebody scored 12 points in the first in 12 minutes, so they're getting a point a minute. Yikes! And that was the first half. It was kind of scary watching some of these.
Yeah, I'm going to go over 99.5. That just seems a little bit low.
All right, what do we got next?
7 Eastern, Bulls at Pistons. Bulls minus 7.5, over under 105.5.
I got to take Detroit. Detroit plus the 7.5.
Yeah, the Bulls were hideous, right, last year?
Uh-huh.
But I think these are current. I think these are current rosters because the season was still going when the.
So Andre Drummond's not on the Pistons.
He might not be. I'm not sure.
I'll take the Bulls. The Bulls on paper look not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take the Bulls as well. And 9 Eastern, Rockets at Lakers. Lakers minus 11.5, over under 111.5.
Rockets.
I'm taking the Rockets money line here.
Me too. Rockets money line.
I'll go Rockets with points.
Line.
Even these
375.
Even these days, the Rockets can bust up our card. Anyways, thanks guys for joining me. It's been fun. If anyone has a topic they want us to cover, hit me up, Mitch at pickdogs.com, or I'll do a post in the Facebook group as well, looking for anything, because I think we'll have sports. I think in the next week or so they're going to announce some sort of plan for at least some baseball, maybe some basketball. It's got to do it. We're starting to see a lot of states go into phase 1 of the recovery. I know in Canada things are a little tighter there. I think everyone made mistakes here, but everyone also went a little crazy on the other side as well. So we'll see. I know Canada had their travel restrictions. Their half the country was not there, when they started doing this. They were all here.
Yeah, pretty much, eh?
Yeah.
We're all on holidays. It's winter. We all run.
Yeah.
It happens in Canada. We all flee. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, snow! Ah,
So it's like,
summer warm.
that's why like in Quebec you see the super high rates. But
Oh, yeah. Frenchmen are all down
oh
in
yeah,
Florida.
yeah.
Beach.
Well, they're on the golf course talking French. It's basically playing with me, like giving them the stink eye. It's like, it's like, it's like, you guys talking French again? It's like, all right. Anyways, I'll see everyone tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, and we made it through a whole show without my camera conking out, which is definitely a step in the right direction. Hopefully my microphone and rest of my stuff. You started to see some of the graphics, just testing them out on today's show, and we'll have a lot more and a lot bigger and better things as things progress. But everyone have a great day. Stay healthy, and let's hope there's some really good news today. And we're not talking about Andy Dalton signing with the Cowboys or something. We're talking about some really good news. Have a great day.
Let's see if we're gonna have the Andy Dalton retirement party. Announces his retirement.
Wouldn't it be funny if the Eagles picked up Dalton? And it's like, what's his name? or the Packers or the Eagles would be the best.
Two redheaded quarterbacks.
Have a great day.
See you guys.